Welcome to part 2 of the Ultimative Dragonknight guide. In part 2, advanced and endgame builds will be covered as well as the skill trees for that, so let's start right away. I want to start with some intermediate stuff that is important to know for the builds and skill trees we're gonna look at later, so let's start. First of all, I want to show you how you can play with multiple hotbars and how you can switch between them in mid-fight. To set up playing with multiple hotbars, simply go to Settings, go to Keyboard Settings and scroll down until you can see the hotkey bar settings. Simply choose the key you want and it fits best for you. I usually play with 6 and 7, 6 for the first hotbar and 7 for the second hotbar. So I'm actually playing with 7 keys, like in the old times where you had a hotbar with 7 skills. And as additional third hotbar, I use a pet hotbar where I put all my pets in and I put that on the Y key. I made you an overview, which you can see here, where all the information you need to set up playing with 2 hotbars and how to play with 2 hotbars is listed. I recommend to leave the left click unbinded so you don't get stuck when accidentally clicking monsters and you don't accidentally start to attack these monsters when left clicking on them, but instead your character is running towards or beyond them. On top of that, I would recommend you to also set up a third hotbar for pets, as I do, so you can switch them faster when you're farming Bloodchest and you firstly need an undermanned pet. Afterwards, you might need the gem collector, which auto loots the gems for you. Afterwards, you maybe need a pet like a dog, which increases your selling price, and then you need to switch back to your damage pet. Then it's really, really good to have a pet hotbar and it increases your farming speed by a lot. On top of that, I put mobility skills and also rage generation skills on the same key. So even always when I need rage, I know I have to press the 2, and always if I need mobility, I press the 3. And it doesn't matter which skill is on there. On top of that, I have armor break combinations on the same hotbar and as well as survivability skills on the other hotbar. So I always know where to go for if I'm low HP or to which hotbar to switch if I need to break the armor. Next off, I want to quickly explain which pets you need in the end game. It's pretty simple. You need one pet that increases the selling price for more gold. It's the cute doggy, which is a world drop. Next off, you need an offensive pet, which is a damage pet. The best pet in the game is the Sargon pet currently. For that, you need to kill Sargon in the Sargon event 250 times on Bloodchest. Or as an alternative, you can play another damage pet, like for example, the Berach pet, which you can get from the Defeat the Undefeatables event. On top of that, for faster farming and more comfortable farming, you will need an auto loot pet. The best one in the game is the Hachi pet, which was only obtainable in lucky bags during the Summer Solstice Festival. A good alternative, which simply doesn't loot cubes, but also loots gems and runes, is the treasure collector, which you can get in the premium day. On top of that, for farming undermanned faster, or at least getting more undermanned when dropping undermanned, there's the lucky cats, which increase your undermanned stack size. The bronze one gives you 5%. In silver, you get 10%, and the golden lucky cat will give you 20% more undermanned when dropping it. As alternative, you can also play the summer lucky cat or the golden parrot. For some boss runs, and especially for Mortis, you will need pets that decrease the armor or the resistances of the boss. But I won't cover these in this guide. I will cover them in a separate Mortis guide in the future. Now I want to show you a really interesting technique called Moonwalking in Drakensang Online. There's 2 variants of this. The classic moonwalk is attacking and walking backwards with it. When I do it, it looks like this, but from the other perspective, it looks like I'm actually moonwalking but attacking while walking backwards. And here the comparison of both on the same time. Since this technique is rather useful for PvP than for PvE, here's the other variant of it, where you walk forward and attack while it this is really good when attacking mob groups and walking past them, so you clean mob groups faster, as I demonstrated here in Q1. Lastly, before we finally look at the advanced and endgame builds, I want to quickly explain which stat requirements you need for the advanced build. The main thing that you should look at is that you don't lose the ability to stack the 100% damage buff, the battle anger buff, which you get if you reach above 4.0 attack speed in the fight, or even more, and then you get these 100 stacks, and as soon as you reach these 100 stacks, you get the 100 damage buff for 30 seconds. If you lose the 100% damage buff when switching to an advanced build, it might be better to still play a 100 build and have more attack speed, because you will have more damage in the fight. Additionally, you need 80% crit on all modes without crit pad and crit buffs, because the skill trees are built that way that you don't have cooldown reductions, but I expect that your crit is high enough so you reduce your cooldowns by critting on mobs. Also, it might be better to still play a beginner build and have the ability to play a damage pad than being dependent on a crit pad, or to have the ability to play damage buffs or health point buffs instead of being dependent on your crit buffs. So that's why this 80% crit is a requirement in my opinion. Now that we've clarified that, let's look at the advanced build and skill trees. Therefore, I've created another overview for you, which shows the advanced build based on the machine power set by Destructor. I've crafted the helmet and the boots, but you can also play the gloves or the belt. To craft these pieces, you have to kill Destructor and collect 100 of his materials on any mode. I've collected them on Painful, and I actually got pretty lucky and got 2 decent crafts to show them in the video. If you don't have enough crit with this build, you can also play the Brigavik boots for the 10% extra crit and play the Destructor belt or Destructor glove as second item, depending on which item you're lacking. If you're lacking the Premium Day belt, play the Destructor belt. If you don't have the Sargon gloves, you can play the Destructor gloves instead as second item. On top of that, the strongest damage amulet in the game is the Sargon amulet from the Undercash portal, but you can also play this Destructor amulet instead of it. If you want to play with more defensive values, you can also play the Kingsil necklace from the Midsummer event or the Medusa amulet from Q9. If you're lacking attack speed, you've got multiple options. You can either play the ring from Halls of Death, or you could play the Destructor torso. So you will have to do a lot of Destructor runs. Except if you're lucky and you have an ingredient jewel, then you will save yourself a lot of time and runs. The best two-handed weapon in the game is the Anniversary event weapon, but since you can only get it in the Anniversary event, an always obtainable alternative is the Q4 Bear Arch weapon, or you can play the Premium World Drop weapon, which gives you extra points on Smash. In order to be able to show you this build, I've bought the sockets on these items so I can show you the stats you can reach with max gems with this build. The amulet is built on damage, the cloak is built on opals on damage as well as 6 damage item, the belt on HP, the 2 rings on damage as well. The adornment is on crit, the weapon is on damage. As another adornment you can play also the Rocketman adornment if you need more crit. Then the machine boots, which I've played as hybrid because I don't need so much run speed. Then torso on crit, gloves on damage, shoulders on attack speed, and the helmet on crit as well. And as you can see, I'm reaching 700k damage with green without damage buffs in the city, and also over 4 attack speed. But as you might have noticed, there's not only the Destructor set you can play if you don't have the mythical Dragan set. There's also some alternatives, which are the Sewers event set, the Sargon set, the Newmoon set, or the Dragan event set. And I've done a little comparison for you for all these sets, which I would recommend you to play. Of course, this is my personal opinion, but I've listed some pros and cons for each set, why you should or should not play it. Starting off with the Destructor set, it's pretty flexible. You have a high damage bonus for only 2 items, and it's always obtainable. And you can also play the Sikri torso with it. Why is the secret torso so important? It gives you another 7.5% on your main damage attack, which is Smash, which is really strong. The sewer set doesn't give you any base damage, but gives you a damage buff. 2 pieces will give you 25%, 3 pieces will give you 50% as soon as the buff activates. The buff lasts for 10 seconds and has 20-second cooldown. Basically, you have 1/3 or 1/4 of the time a damage buff. Coming to the Sargon set, this set gives you the most base damage any set can give you, and it also gives you health points. The problem with the set is it's not flexible and you can't play the Sigrismar QA torso. Actually, when calculating it, you will do more damage with another set and playing the Sigrismar torso than playing the Sargon set, although it looks cool in City if you have good stats with it. The Newmoon set, to be honest, I would not recommend this set because you will gain more attack speed if you're simply playing the Warlord, Pauldrons, the World Crop Shoulders on attack speed with the attack speed enchantments. This will give you more attack speed than the set, except if you're playing the head and the belt. This can be a good alternative if you don't have the premium belt, but your damage output won't be that high. Coming to my personal favorite set, the Dragon event set, the problem with it is it's not obtainable in the moment, and if you can obtain it, it's better to obtain the mythical Dragon set. But this set gives you a lot of base damage, it gives you movement speed, so you can take out some movement speed gems and put some more offensive or HP gems in instead of it. And the main reason is because it's so nostalgic. And you have this laser beam around you, which simply looks super cool. And that's why I played this Dragon set before the mythical Dragon set was released. But because this is the Ultimate Dragonknight guide, that's not the only way I compared them. There's DSO Planner by Brixvan, where I fixed some bugs that exist for the English language in this planner. And I've rebuilt all these item builds in the planner for you, and I've linked them in the description. So you can go and watch all these builds and also copy them yourself and test around a little bit with your items and your base stats and your gems, which set is best for you and which city damage you reach. And the cool thing in this planner is you can also test which stats you reach on the map with active jewels and active buffs. Now let's take a look at the advanced skill tree, where the main goal is the maximum damage output. 1 point in rage attack for the rage buff, which stacks attack speed and movement speed. 1 point in the rage jump, which also gives you attack speed for 3 seconds. Maximum points in smash because it's our main damage skill. 13 points because 3 points from the Sigrismar torso, and the extra 10% damage for smash from Rising Vigor 3. 10 points in Furious Battlecry because it gives us 50% more damage. 10 points in Dragonhide to regenerate health if we're low HP. And I've put the last 2 points that remained in Impatience for a little bit less cooldown on these skills. 5 points in Iron Brow and 1 point in Groundbreaker to reach over 100% resistance break. Then I've used 10 points for Unleashed Dragon for a good AoE clean, so for greater mob groups. And I've used 10 points for Agathon's Guard for extra damage because these guards are doing quite some damage, especially if you cast them with red essences, as I showed you in part 1 of the Ultimative Dragonknight guide. On top of that, 5 points in Quick Striker, which I've also talked about in part 1 of the Ultimative Dragonknight guide, so go and check it out if you don't have already. For Bloodchest, I would recommend you to also play with 5 of 5 Quick Striker, but the healing shield, healing spike shield is really strong for Bloodchest because you simply activate the spike shield and you don't need to care about your healing because you get health by being hit. Next off, we got the Unleashed Dragon to clear the mob group at the chests. Then I go for full armor break in case you get a shield boss. 10 points in Furious Battlecry, 10 points in Smash, 10 points in Rising Vigor 3, and that's all our points. You can also play without Unleashed Dragon and use more points for Dragonhide if you need more health regeneration and if you realize you die too often with this skill tree. Now let me show you one round of Bloodchest with this item build and skill tree. As a little trick, if you activate Spike Shield and the Blood Sludge hits you, you can instantly apply your Groundbreaker or Iron Brow, because the damage of that skill will be enough to instantly break the armor, and you save yourself one smash to break the shield of the sludge, and it's instantly broken with your armor break, because the spike shield will already break half of the shield of the sludge. But now, finally, it's time for the endgame Dragan build. Let's dive right into it. We're starting as usual with the item build and the overview. But since this build is pretty simple, let me directly show it to you in-game. These are the stats and the items I play. Starting off with the Sargon amulet. I'm playing it on damage. Cloak on attack speed. The belt on health points. The 2 rings on damage, as usual. The anniversary weapon on damage as well. The adornment with opals on damage 2. The boots on run speed. The gloves on damage. The torso on crit. The shoulders on health points. And the head on crit as well. With higher essences I reach, of course, more damage, but I'm using a tonic and a vigor as well right now. Regarding the skill tree, I have 13 points in Smash, 3 from Secret Torso and 10 skilled, another 10 in Rising Vigor 3. I'm playing 9 points in Dragonknight, because those 9 points remain when skilling like this. 10 points in Furious Battlecry, 1 point in Iron Brow for a stun, 10 points in Groundbreaker because that's where our buff activates from the Dragan Set, 10 points in Unleashed Dragon for even more AoE damage, and another 10 points in Agathon's Guard for even more damage from the guards. And on top of that, of course, 5 points in Quick Striker. The reason why I play opals in my adornment is because the Rocketman adornment has a damage enchantment as unique value as well as a critical value enchantment. And since I have damage and critical value on my opals, these 2 enchantments give me extra crit and extra damage. As alternative to the torso, you could play the Destructor torso on attack speed. Currently I'm playing with 2 health point items, but I often also play with 2 attack speed items and only 1 health point item. This is totally depending on what you prefer, either stacking the 100% damage buff faster, or if you prefer to be a little bit tankier. As an alternative to the Sargon amulet, you can play the Destructor amulet on damage as well. For the weapon, if you didn't have the luck to drop the anniversary weapon, you can either play the Q4 BRARC weapon or the Premium World Drop weapon. For the adornment, a good alternative is the Pregavik adornment, and you may even reach more damage with it, depending on your build. Playable sets are the Sewer set, gloves and boots, or you can also play 2 parts of the Destructor set. For example, the boots and the belt, or you could also play the gloves if you don't have the Sargon gloves. And now you can have fun and farm like this. The best offensive alternative to a 2-handed build is the Gwenfara one-handed build. The Gwenfara uniques give you a buff that gives you additional damage. The shield stacks the buff when you smash. If you get 25 stacks, the buff is activated and you get 15% more damage for 5 seconds. With the jewels you can even increase this damage, but currently these jewels are a little bit bugged and I tested them for you. Firstly, the buff can be activated up to 3 times when being triggered. This is bugged, I think, but I'm not sure if this is wanted behavior or not, but I guess it's not wanted. But as you can see, I can trigger it once or twice or 3 times at a time. So I get 15, 30 or 45% without any jewels from the buff. With 1 crate jewel, as you can see, the buff has 25% damage. With 2 crate jewels, the buff has 30% damage, as well as with 3 crate jewels, the buff also has 30% damage. And with 1 green jewel, I already get 15% more, so I get 30% for the buff. And even when adding other jewels, it always stays at 30%. Upgrading it to blue, same thing again 30%. Upgrading it to purple, same thing again, still 30%. Upgrading it to legendary, same thing again. So I guess it's capped at 30%. So if you get 30%, that's the maximum you can get, and you can trigger it up to 3 times. So maximum you get is 90% from this buff, which is quite decent. And you will deal a lot of damage with this one-handed build as well. For the last chapter of the warrior guide for PvE, I want to show you some fun builds that are actually quite nice. Let's go. For the first fun build, we got the Ultimative 1275 damage skill, which is the Bloody Wild Swing. And for big mob groups like here in the Q1 circle, this actually works pretty nice. You cast your Banner of War, and if you have a lot of mobs in the Banner of War, this stacks the damage of the skill very high. And so you can clean mob groups pretty fast. But for single targets, you can't stack the skill high, and then it takes quite a long time. And on top of that, you need to crit, so you have no cooldown on the skill. But if you don't crit, you will have a cooldown on the skill, so for boss fights, this can take a long time. If you want to rebuild this, here's the skill tree. You need, of course, maximum points in Bloody Wild Swing and 10 points in Rising Vigor 3. Maximum point in Banner of War as well, because from this skill, we get the stacks on top of the Bloody Wild Swing. For each mob in the fight arena, we get +5 increased damage per skill level. That's how we can stack so high. And 2 items that increase this fun build even further is the Q7 weapon from Herald and the Q4 belt from Barak. Now, there you go. The next fun build is based on the only element that Dragonknights can fully break 100%, which is poison. And it's built with the poison shoulders, which gives you 50% poison resistance reduction for 5 seconds if you hit an enemy with Rageful Swing. If we look at the skill tree, we will skill 2 points in the poison mastery. So we unlock the level 2, which gives us poison orbs when defeating an enemy, and the damage of Rageful Swing and the smash skill are turned into poison damage. To break 100% on an enemy, we need 3 skills, which is Rageful Swing for 50%, Iron Brow for 30%, and Outburst for the last 20%. Like this, we have 100% poison reduction on an enemy. And if we apply all these 3 on a boss, it actually works pretty neat. Have fun testing! That's it for PvE Warrior Guide. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Leave a subscribe if you want to see more content. And also comment down below which guide or tutorial you want to see next. See ya!